Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, my mic works great. Here we go, guys. The next topic we're going to learn today is something called a loop. More importantly, the type of loop is called a counted loop. Notice how I did double forward slashes to write myself a little note here. Here's how they work. So let's say I ask you to write the word hello on the screen 5 times. Okay. What you would do is, you could copy and paste this, right? You could get pretty good at it. Then I'll copy these two. And there's 5 times. Okay. And I'll run it and it'll say hello on the screen 5 times. Let's have a look and see if that works. Yes. And if I want to run it 20 times, I could, be creative about it and do this. And that is a terrible way to code because now I have 28 lines of code in my program just to say the word hello 20 times. And that is inefficient because a computer is good at computing things, and in particular, it's good at counting things. So what if I could say, run 20 times here? Okay. And then in curly brackets, whatever code I put in there will run 20 times. Can I do that? Yes, I can. Now, the syntax to do that is not the word run 20 times. It would be nice. But computers aren't good like that. A computer actually wants you to make an integer inside of the brackets and set it equal to something. I'm actually going to set it equal to 1. Okay. It actually needs 3 lines of code in this bracket, all separated by semicolons. So the first line is make an integer. Okay. The second line is a condition for how long you want I to run for. So I'm going to say make sure it runs as long as I is less than or equal to 20. And the last thing inside the brackets is an increment. How much do you want I to increase each time it goes through that bracket? I'm going to say I plus plus, or I equals I plus 1 is another way to say it. So 3 lines in that bracket, all together. Okay, there's line 1. Make your variable, then what it's going to start at. There's line 2. Set that variable, give it a limitation so that it can only run as long as I is less than or equal to 20. If it gets to be 21, it will stop. And then also do your increment. And the last thing you got to do in front of the brackets is write the word for. So it's much like an if statement in C++. You have if, and then you have your brackets, but here you have a for, and you actually need 3 things. So let's run that and see if it writes the word hello 20 times. And now instead of 28 lines of code, I only have 3 lines. Perfect. It did it. And I can also scale it to anything I want. I could get it to write 200,000 hellos. Watch this. That's as fast as it can do it. That's kind of trippy, isn't it? Here is the other really important thing about it. Let me just go back and write the 20 again. Not only can I do something 20 times or 200,000 times, but it also keeps track of the number that I'm on, okay? This variable I here, it keeps track of what it is. So if I put I here like that, and then write hello, maybe with a colon in front of it, just so that I can see, it's going to print out the number of times it has printed out, which is really useful to us later on. Okay, so this is a really huge concept in coding, how to get the computer to count for you. Not only how to get it to count for you, but how to keep track and how to repeat code. Okay? So it's repetitive counting. Let's see if I can do my 200,000 and see how fast it goes. It's really slow. It's going to take a long time to get to 200,000. Okay, so the computer is counting for us now. That's great. Here is one last thing I wanted to talk about briefly, and that's this idea of actually stopping the code and looking at what happens while you stop it. So I'm going to stop my code right here. Okay. So the way you stop it is you pick the line you want to stop your code on, and you click right beside it in the gray area there, not on the actual thing, not anywhere there. This actually minimizes and maximizes sections if you have huge coding, like thousands of lines of code. So I'm going to press a stop sign here beside 8. I want to stop it and see what happens as I go. So when you do a stop sign here, if you press the red play button instead of the green one, it will stop your code there, and then you can walk through it. Okay? So I'm going to press this red play button. This is called the debug mode. And mine's already by default, it's already got this watches window here. You may not have that yet, so what you want to do is you can either go to debug, and you can go to debugging windows and click watches, or this is the whole debug section up here. So let me just zoom in. It's up in here. So if I click there and click watches, then I'll be able to see all my variables. Great. So look at this. This is a great tool to use, guys, because I've created a variable called I, but right now it's equal to 4,200,555. That's because it hasn't executed this line of code yet. It's stuck there. As soon as I run through this line of code, it's going to let I hopefully equal 1. The shortcut to step one line at a time is F7 on your keyboard. Notice my yellow arrow updates. Great. Notice I is now equal to 1. It updated it as well. It hasn't printed this line of code out yet. Let's see if it has. No, it hasn't printed anything out yet. Okay? Because I'm on that line of code. I haven't executed it yet. So I'm going to hit F7, and it's going to jump down and loop back around and just keep running this. So actually, let me just run it for less than 20 so we don't have to skip through 20 times. I'm going to just run it for 5 times here. I'm going to run it with my debug. Okay, great. Again, I still have the same strange value in there for I because I haven't executed the line yet. F7 is going to skip me to the next line. The other way I could have done that is here, next line. Okay, so I'm going to jump down. I is now 1. Great. It's going to output this line of code, hopefully. It has. It's written 1 and hello on my screen. Great. I'm going to execute this line of code again. I is now 2. I can see it crawling up on me. Execute it again. I is now 3. Execute it again. I is now 4. Execute it again. I is now 5. It's still okay. Okay. I is less than or equal to 5. That is still true. I is less than or equal to 5. But as soon as I becomes 6, this for loop will quit. Okay. It quits and jumps down to the final line of my code. Return 0. Okay. So it ran through here 5 times. It happily did that. As soon as this condition was not met anymore, it stopped, jumped out of my code, and continued on its way. It wrote hello 5 times, and that is a great tool to use. It's called the debugger, okay? So I'm going to post the lab today, work on that, counted loops. There'll be some basic questions to answer. And I'll post this video too if you weren't paying attention, or if you need it for later on.